Michelle from California. I have switch hands here. I have never shared this with anyone, but I have compulsive eating and have done that for a long time. I do everything I can to follow healthy diets and strategies for weight loss. I do great for a while, but then I have a huge binge. I want to get off this cycle so bad. I just don't know how to do it. What's the first step to stop binge eating? This is a hard one. Yeah, my goodness, binge eating. I know because I have experienced this myself, and I can talk another time about how I was able to stop and have stopped binge eating for it's been like over 18 months, well, maybe like even 2 years at this point. And I could help someone walk them through that. But I also just have to give total props to the program that I actually did, the Food Freedom Masterclass by Jessie Jean. I did that program for 12 weeks, and it was, I mean, I was a total client. I didn't even try to pretend to be a therapist. I was just like super desperate and like wanted to not have this behavior anymore, and entered her class and like just followed everything she told me, she suggested that I do. The class is still running. It's really great. You can follow her on Instagram. Her name's Jessie, Jessi, Jean, Jeann. And yeah, so I have overcome this. So I feel very personally invested in this question. Just also for total transparency, she uses, and I would use or like lean on, the intuitive eating literature and approach to binge eating. So let's just go sort of back to the drawing board. So binge eating it's different than overeating. Overeating it's a really different phenomenon. So binge eating, you're really eating quickly, compulsively, without ability to stop, to the point where you feel sick, where you feel nauseated. It's a form, I would say it's a form of self-harm, of self-punishment of some sort. And so that's why it's a little different than overeating. So some people sort of overeat all day. They might graze. Not to say that's not equally important and a behavior that you might want to shift, but it's just really different than binge eating. It's almost like binge eating, like a compulsion comes over you, and then a tremendous amount of guilt afterwards. So the cycle for binge eating, I think the first, so let me see, what does she ask? Michelle asked, what's the first step to stop binge eating? So Michelle actually outlines the struggle in her own, she outlines the cycle in her own question. So she says, number one, I haven't shared this with anyone. So the shame is already there. This is a secret. I'm bad. And Michelle, I don't, you might not think this. I'm just sort of generalizing your question now. But the shame is already there. It's this idea, I can't share this with anyone. This is a secret. I'm ashamed of this. I'm a bad person for doing this. I'm out of control. So she starts with the shame. I have never shared this with anyone, but I have compulsive eating and have for a long time. Again, so second part of binge eating is usually happened for a long time. Like sometimes, a lot of times you can like think of that first episode of binge eating in childhood. I do everything I can to follow healthy diets and strategies for weight loss. Okay, so that's kind of the second part of the cycle. So you have the shame and the secrecy. You then have, I am going to follow healthy eating. A lot of times that usually means either super low calorie, cutting out a food group, intermittent fasting. Like you're engaging in some kind of restrictive behavior. So she does that. She does great for a while, meaning restricts, and then has a huge binge, and then feels the shame, then restricts, huge binge, shame, right? So that's the cycle. So let me just show you this. Again, I'm going to post this But if you just, again, let's just picture that cycle. And I just want you to think of yourself if you struggle with binge eating, um, you're feeling, you're deciding, I'm going to go on this new diet, 1,500 calories a day. I'm going to use my Fitness Pal, or I'm going to cut out all carbs, or I'm going to do keto and like pee on the strip and make sure my ketone. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff happening out there. Okay, so I'm going to restrict, and then you feel very contained. You're just like, you have a plan. It's very structured. Usually it's graphing, tracking, something like that. Or it's not, and it's like, I don't eat for 12 hours and then I eat 2,000 calories or 1,000 calories in one sitting, for example. But you're restricting either way. Yes, there are so many things. And then we feel almost high, exhilarated. I'm doing it. I only ate 1,500 calories. I tracked every single meal. And we might be able to do that for some people for hours, some people for days, some people for weeks and months. Haven't seen more than months without a binge if someone's really restricting. Not even really restricting, just even restricting a whole food group is extreme. And I just also want to say, if you're doing any of these things and it's working, more power to you. Totally fine. All good. I'm just focusing on like the people who that doesn't work for in this little talk. Then like, so the restriction, at the end of the restriction, people are struggling, i.e. they are hungry. They start getting obsessed with food. Fixating on food, fixating on the cheat day. There starts to become an obsessive compulsive element because you're hungry. And when you're hungry, that's all that you can really think about. And when you've restricted for a long time, your body is just craving highly satiable foods. There's the giving into the binge, into cravings, eating more than normal, usually feeling out of control. That's sort of the portion that moves you from overeating into binge eating. And then there's the feeling guilty, feeling ashamed, like a failure. I don't consider myself to be like a binge eat. I feel like you need to really help someone with a binge eating disorder. You need formal nutritional training. So I'm not going to go in and sort of talk about my suggestions for how to cure binge eating, because it needs to be interprofessional. I think you should be with a therapist and a dietitian, or finding someone who does both. I work with someone who I mentioned before really closely, Jessie Jean. She does more of the dietitian side, and I do the therapy side. Like, I would recommend her program and then work with the person in individual therapy. We don't formally work together, but our programs work together. But what I would say is, following your body has worked nicely for me. And separating from societal ideals of what bodies should look like. So those are kind of the two things that I did that were really helpful for me. So if I wake up and I'm really craving maybe a highly palatable breakfast, so like an egg and turkey sandwich with cheese, that would be considered like a highly palatable breakfast for me. I'm going to eat that. And if I'm craving a kiwi, like an hour and a half later, I will eat that. If I'm not hungry then for another 5 or 6 hours, okay, I won't eat. But I just sort of trust my body to guide what I need throughout the day. And what I've learned is that it works out ultimately. But that's only if you can separate from what society tells you your summer body should look like, your beach body should look like. I don't know, for me, if it's summer and I'm here, I'm in my summer body. If I'm at the beach in my body, that would be my beach body. But that takes a lot of work and time. And so that's where a therapist can be helpful. So to go back to Michelle, I think the first step is really understanding that cycle. And next steps might be finding a therapist or a dietitian with therapy training or a therapist with dietitian training to help you work through it and figure out what's your relationship to your body, what's your relationship to food, kind of going from there. All right, friends. We are done with blissful consults. I care about you. I love you very much. I want you to have an amazing day. It looks like it's very, at least pretty on the East Coast. I'm hoping West Coast is having a good day too. I will see you. I'm actually going to go on right now and do a little story, Instagram story for you about archetypes. So hopefully I'll see you there. Have a good day. Bye.